The past 96 hours, I have just discovered that the classic he's had turned somewhat prickly by my wife of 10 years. She spent inordinate amounts of time with a very good married guy friend who is available most weekdays due to his type of job. He's part of a couple we know, have been to one another's homes, and have kids in common, etc. The classic scenario is that my wife got very emotionally dependent, then turned to flirting. Heavy flirting, then turned to kissing at times, which was slightly more physical once, but apparently nothing physical occurred. Not that it matters. As she just couldn't when he pushed for more. She supposedly backed away. This was all part of an off-and-on roller coaster that crisscrossed between friendship and much more than friendship, filled with lots of texting and phone affairs twice during the intense periods. He is very emotionally needy, and I know this personally. It all started with her helping, listening, and fixing him. You get the picture. He played her, and she ultimately was the very willing participant. She initiated the first kiss. Importantly, I am previously married, and the same exact thing happened with my first wife. I forgave her, tried working it out, and bam, 18 months later, she left me for another guy. I met wife number 2 while in the divorce process. She was engaged at the time. I didn't know she broke it off as I learned of it. I was officially divorced about a year when we got married 10 years ago. So in this marriage at the outset, I told wife number 2, cheat on me and it is immediately over. With all my being, I mean it. Now I've caught her in this. Everyone says the same thing, of course, but I just really couldn't have imagined her going through and continuing something like this. We often got all high and mighty about how anyone could do such a thing. She immediately admitted when confronted, and what I believe to be full details have been emerging as we talked it out. She's begged and begged to work it out, talking it out and reading through 3 or 4 surviving the affair type books for the past 4 days. The realization for her through included discussion with her best female friend she's known since childhood is that she's got a real psychological issue with needing positive attention and excitement, thrill. We've also come to realize that she kept her marriage very compartmentalized. I would say it was happy, truly, and she lies without realizing she's lying. Especially when caught, I of course asked how many times this kissing occurred. At least 3, I believed. Oh no, not any more than that, she said. Dissing facts, I can piece together. We've gotten to about 10 or 11 times. Granted, it was 2 years ago, but she's got a lousy memory and needs to be prompted to get it all extracted. I think we've done so, and I have a pretty good picture. I believe I work 65 to 80 hours a week, and am often on the road for 4+ days a week, for months at a time. It is the one and only thing we ever argue about, and the one thing I can take responsibility and accountability for. Although, of course, the angry me states that I was making a living for our family. She's a stay-at-home mom, but has a pretty nice lifestyle. I will say, of course, now I wish I'd quit my job and moved to a tiny apartment and understood the depth of that issue. However, I'm attentive, loving, caring, and outwardly cognizant about the issue when I am in a deep work cycle. This started less than a year after moving to a new town, and she admittedly had trouble making friends that she connected with at first. She was easy prey. He was there. Though, two other relevant facts. One, for the first 8 years, my wife was a bit overweight. As the affair started, she proceeded to lose about 40 pounds. She has never looked better in her life than she does today. Funny how I endured the heavy girl. Now she's fit and trim, and she will be out there for someone else. 2. Let's just say our bedroom wife was pretty mediocre most of the time. Is highly willing participants, especially as she lost weight. Her sexuality improved greatly, but not great performance. That was my fault. Is to this day, even now with everything out, she insists that sex was not the driver. It was not about getting sex elsewhere. Since it was the excitement, the adrenaline rush being paid attention to in the teenage-like mode that infatuation holds. I pretty much believe this. She swears it's over. It had already been over for a few months now. She swears she regrets it. A last 4 days of crying and sobbing, and while I believe her, I've told her we must make plans for separation and divorce, plain and simple. We've talked endlessly about how it was this separate thing from her real life, and how while my work life left her too alone, she actually was content in the marriage. Texture online. Inside, I am a raging lunatic, and in heated yelling fits, I have nearly lost it physically, both with her and, more realistically, to tracking down the other man for humiliation. From what I read, doing the whole classic reaction process, I'm proud of myself for doing nothing while in such a highly emotional state, but it's a minute-by-minute struggle. I'm devastated, which takes the form of anger. She's begged us to do Max and I see her. I have begrudgingly agreed, where I don't see the point of making a pretend effort when I can never envision the streaming video that replays in my mind. He continuously, night and day, ever going away while I am in her presence. If ever at all, I can say I love her and always will, but of course I hate her for what she has done. I despise what she's done to me the most, but cannot stomach what she's now taken away from my son. He's highly fixated on the three of us in his drawings, writing, and stories. It's almost criminal to read what makes you most happy. When we're all together, which city, house would you rather live in? Any place we can all be togetherness. Really sweet stuff that is now heartbreaking. I'm beside myself every day I hear one of these phrases. Going through the normal life motions the past 4 days, bedtime, playtime, eating, talking with him. Mother's Day was a joy. We both often need to walk away and sob in another room. You all know the pain. It's intense. So, my questions for you all include: 1. Does reconciliation really exist? Says I can't imagine ever being in acceptance mode. I've agreed to do Mac. Really, your opinions? Is there hope here? You. How does a man not go beat the living hell out of the other man? It's in so many deep angles here. This is real. I need to face him man to man. He man to man let him know I will not be wronged like this and go away. I need to relieve the rage. I need to be able to know, down the road, that he didn't get away with it. I know where he lives. I know his wife. I know his children. The other man is a work-at-home guy, so he is around town all day long. Any action lays my home and family open to retribution, but I still cannot let it go. On top of that, he's a little bit unstable. She confided in her best friend that if she turned up dead, this was the guy she should have investigated. I know the other man's wife. I have written an email to send to them both, disclosing the affair and proclaiming he is never to make any contact ever again. I have hesitated before sending this, making sure I don't do something that will end up costing me. But I want to do so. I must do something about this. I've agreed to do Maxi, mostly to work in the interest of my son. This can it ever work? Staying together just for the young child, but living as roommates? Or is that thinking just because I know the financial devastation, the logistical nightmares of splitting the household? Also, regarding Maxi, I'm wary because I am, of course, looking for something that doesn't exist. And erase the memory button. I understand working through a process, but I do not believe I could give this year of working on what she and I both perceive to be mostly her neediness issues. I'm looking for a switch to go off, some big breakthrough where I can then make a final decision that she's changed and is worth sticking with. But I really cannot envision that. So, have I already sabotaged Mick? I'm having a hard time with the fact that she knew. My rule given my prior divorce experience. And did it anyway. There's plenty of material about doesn't it make you weak to take her back after such a thing? Ugly, because she knows I loved her enormously. I could see that in the first 24 hours after D-Day. She really believed deep down that I'd get to a point that I was willing to forgive and work it out. We quickly have gotten her to understand the baseline is 99 I am leaving, not there's an option that I am staying. I saw this perspective in her, and frankly, I resent it, feeding the rage inside even more. This is a real struggle for me. For those who have forgiven and moved on, how does one reconcile the weakness and not feel arguing exactly the behavior that led her astray in the first place? H comments. Well played, sir. No, do not go after the other man, because it sounds like the weasel will call the police, and you will have bigger problems. Or even send him a threatening message if he steps in front of a drunk driver who hit and runs. You are the first person they come looking for. But yes, take it to the brink and see how hard she fights for this. It is entirely possible for you to save the marriage, but I must also admit I probably would go ahead and D anyway. Knowing her past and how you met, it sounds like you really stumbled into the baggage car. How do you know this affair never went beyond kissing? It can't possibly be because that's what your wife told you. Send the email to the other man's wife. But to the Ohm's wife, he doesn't get off scot-free. This is your retribution and an ethical thing to do concerning his wife. Reconciliation is possible but difficult and takes a damn long time to get back close to where you were as a couple. You will never be the same, but you can get to a place that's possibly acceptable. Have divorce papers drawn up, have her served. This will let her know you're not ducking around. Her actions during this divorce process will let you know whether you will take that 1% chance at reconciliation. I's actions during this possible reconciliation will be total transparency. You own her. You have access to everything. Her email, cell phone, current location, who she's with when she's with them. This transparency should go on for as long as you need it to reestablish trust in her, be that months or years. If she balks at any of your demands for transparency, no matter how extreme, divorce her. Be done with it. Do not make any decisions until you have had a chance to get past the shock. Yes, she knew your rules. We all had them, and it didn't matter. Telling her bunch of times if you do, we do, doesn't make it any different. Other feelings you have to carry through with D because you said so. Or can work. It is for me, and I have to say things are better than they were for years before. Is one guy for you, 3 and 20 years for me, and my youngest might not be mine biologically. If you love her, give it time. Don't make up any more films in your head. If you have questions, ask them. Tell her it has to be 100 honesty. Give it time. Don't buy all this kick it to the curbs crap. It can work if you try. I do not claim to know this didn't go full-blown affair. I'll never know. I read something here regarding polygraphs and told her I was having her take one. First mix session today was way less helpful than 4 days and nights of talking and reading and talking more. But I suppose day 1 mixi is more interview, fact collection than anything. We scheduled a double session for WID. This will be telling me on my hopes for that process. A funny thing, I read something here regarding polygraphs and told her I was having her take one. She didn't blink an eye and agreed to do so. I think I may line one up. Wonder what they cost. She does continue to beg forgiveness, working at it and staying together. I just don't know. Seems unanimous on sending email to the EM's wife. How does a man control the rage? Seriously. Follow-up question. Anyone with experience leaving a job for a significantly lower salary in an effort to try and make it work? This seems to be the one thing I can do. Is this a good, bad, or indifferent idea? I envision doing this. It not working out and me hating her even worse for now, trying to make 2 households work on much less money. On D-Day, she gave me all access to sell FB email. She did get 3 months of records. Not the physical text, just #S and times, all validated her story of when last contact was. The whole angle of feeling weak to even consider, much less work it, reconciling, is a really big deal to me too. Where's my pride after all? I self-respect manhood. The buried somewhere in the heart, I spilled all over the floor. You can't choose both. On one hand, if our can be worked out, the result seems like it can actually be phenomenal. Though maybe better than it was when the affair happened. Much better than it was on D-Day, and the whole affair had been over, and things were actually pretty good. Given that you've been shocked into reawakening, with onus on both sides to really work at it. But Shinsi, on the other hand, even working toward our takes such an unbelievable leap of faith that has now been broken. I just don't know that I can do it. Just rewarding her for cheating by not throwing her out and working at it is already eating at me, and we've only been to initial mix sessions. It's still the right thing to do, but damn, I do not want to turn into a full-time permanent detective in my own home forever. I'd rather walk away now than live like that for the long term. Of course, with this all raw, I'm all over it, and at this point, there's no contact. It's down the road with life back to being somewhat semi-normal. Eventually, I do have to go back to work. That will haunt me. It is just so incredibly ironic that once you've discovered the affair, you the wrong spouse now have to decide if you trust her. This really sucks. I gave the first wife a chance after her first EA. 18 months later, she left for a different guy. And I have to say, as I type this, it sure sounds pathetic. Burned wife is remorseful. She had already ended the EA before being caught and is committed and asking for my commitment as well to working on the marriage to come out on a better side. Nemik has already shown us the laundry list of her issues. Adopted, alcoholic father, deceased mother who is her best friend, lifelong weight issues. And she knows we needs to work them out. Let her love herself more fully before she can love anyone else fully. She states she now realizes her chase of the high for attention has probably pushed me away, the only person other than her mother that truly loved her for who she is. A parent was the best. Then we get too deep into unconditional love dialogue. I'm not sure that exists in marriage, only in parent-child love. The question is, can I wait to see what comes out the other side of the process? My ability to completely trust anyone again, ever, is completely gone, in a warped sense. Then perhaps I'm better off with this understood and out in the open, with someone on the other side working to overcompensate for that, rather than making it another person's issue that they cannot possibly understand nor do anything about. For further, I can now reserve a piece of me and always up and leave if she stops working at it. I'm not satisfied with where it is, or cannot tolerate the depth or frequency of the subconscious misery. We've discussed a contract for me to try for our take your fair share of assets and go, or we try and you slip up in any way to my discretion, and you get nothing. She says she'd sign that agreement. The thing I'm stuck about is having no good options for dealing with the OM before. Unless I decide I'm out and leave, then it's game on. It's uncomfortable with any and all carnage I leave. But meanwhile, during the R attempt, on the one hand, I don't want to go get locked up for giving him a piece of my mind. On the other hand, telling his wife would obviously leave my family and home vulnerable to actions he may pursue as he is slightly unstable. He works at home and I commute an hour away, so I don't feel I can protect my home properly. Additionally, the wives, mine and his, are acquainted, we're formerly better friends, and share a common circle of friends. But telling her would surely result in my wife being labeled as she is in the community. If I leave, that is fine. If I stay, however, that is not what I want. My latest thought is finding him, telling him that either he tells his wife and then has his wife call me so I know she got the story, or I will. That the repercussion fears still hold true. 2 weeks later, she insists she still loved me all along. But yes, she fell in love with this man and told him so, which is just a killer to hear. I don't know that it can be both ways. At least one doesn't fall back and forth, making them, then me again. That is not really love. And that she doesn't even know what love really is. She insists she does know, that this has all taught her exactly what love is and has confirmed what she already had figured out she wants. Trust me that it wasn't love, it was infatuation at the time. Although this period of several months, she did not figure that out and kept at it. My internal debate is that this woman I was married to for 10 years, I felt did know what love is, which is what made it so powerful to give to someone else. I grapple still about her being possible here, that I just cannot get past her admission in my mind that she in fact loved him, and therefore in the process did not love me. That she turned her back on me, us, chased her fantasy and made it more real, gave her heart over to him. Therefore, why would I risk or believe her or want that heart back now? Just 1 month later, the EM is totally out of the picture. I full transparency and saw the end coming, and the eye had already ended several months before I discovered it. Yes, it helps, but no, it does not solve the question for me. Wife is absolutely remorseful, absolutely recommitted, absolutely doing the heavy lifting and legwork I require to even attempt art. His wife has shared all details and answered all questions I has asked. I seem to still get overly engrossed in the history at times. What I was missing as this happened, what I believed in our marriage at the time, and yes, the fact that she had told the other man she loved him. In fact, we just finished a lengthy discussion after. She'd written me replies to several questions I still had. We are now 31 days post-day. She described again much of what others have chimed in with in this story, that yes, she used the word, maybe even believing it at the time. But really looking back at it, it was infatuation with a fantasy. And like a high, not the man or the person himself. And she says, not instead of me, but in addition to me. Listen our deep discussion today. Through her tears, she shared with me that she's ashamed to say she didn't even recognize what true love really even is until she observed me going through this process. Through the pain, and with her eyes now opened and through her process of self-discovery and the help of Mekshi, she wants to give me that kind of love. But half a year later, long story short, I caught my wife after she had already needed to try for the past 9+ months to work on our relationship, but I'm not feeling like it's going to work out. So we're going to try a separation, possibly advancing to a formal legal separation or divorce. 2 issues for me now are, 1, she has not worked since 3 years before our 7-year-old son was born. And 2, I make a good income, but I'm classically resentful of handing over half or more piece of my paycheck to her to live the lifestyle to which she's become accustomed, while I go live in a cardboard box somewhere. I want to provide for my son, no questions asked, but in the process, if I am being honest, I am then going to be providing far more to her than I am comfortable with. Especially given that she caused this all through her cheating. Although I guess most laws, including here in Nye, adultery doesn't impact settlement terms. I know the next step is to seek legal help, but before I get there, I'm wondering what to expect for my own mental preparation. I am unaware of the 17 child support expectation. No problem there, although I am still confused about how you pay that percentage of gross income from your net income. She then gets 30 of my gross income on top of that, since she will be the primary physical custodian. Also, to be paid for my net income, she will then be entitled to much more than half of my take-home pay. Is that how it works? He says, it's not to sound unreasonable or vindictive or disrespectful to stay-at-home moms, but it just seems so unfair. She's not working outside the home and provided no income. Yes, her home services have great value. I worked my butt off, which gave her the means to enable her lifestyle, and she is entitled to enough income that I will now step down significantly in lifestyle and home that I must also provide. Is room for my son so that she can maintain hers, which I provided in the first place? And what if I stopped working like crazy and started flipping burgers? What then? In the end, we do want to keep it all amicable, even use one mediator and keep it all civil. I just want to be mentally prepared for what I am going to hear as to what she is entitled to, so that I don't flip out on the spot. I don't want to make any lawyer rich in this process. As others have said, I'm probably better off just giving it over and moving on. She doesn't want us to split up and supposedly was never about the money, but isn't going to settle for much less than she's entitled to either. And in the end, I want my son comfortable. So she wins. Years later, a small update. The other man was exposed. I was told they were splitting up too, but I don't know what actually ever happened. After camping out on his doorstep for 2 full nights and him never actually pulling into the driveway, I decided to stop wasting my time chasing him. At least for a while, and or until my child is grown and capable of taking care of himself. Hopefully, by then I won't care at all and can let it gut it. I could have stayed with my wife and led a pretty normal life. It would have been okay. Maybe we would have even grown somewhat together. But deep down, it would always be there for me and I'd never be the same. And frankly, I resented that and the doubt that would now always be there. Please know that I think reconciliation can happen and wish it could have for me. I just also think that for some, like me, it just isn't going to. It can't and won't, no matter how much counsel I receive. SSC, even with all the counseling, talking, and corrective action from the WS, something sacred inside the BS breaks, and it is gone forever. I wish this weren't true for me, but in the end, despite my wishes, I had to admit what was inside of me was there and leave. I could have saved myself a lot of time, money, tears, sleepless nights, and angst by recognizing my true inner self, but had to work through the process to get there. I always said that if I were going to leave, I needed to be able to look into the mirror and say I tried. Story 2. Dealing with this thing. Next story. Met my wife in 2014 at a camp we worked at. We were dating and chilled for the summer. We lived in different states and each moved back home after the summer. Plus, we stayed in touch. She had a boyfriend, but we were broken up, which is fine. In 2015, I moved to be closer to her and we got back together. Though, she didn't leave her boyfriend for me. They had split before I moved. We dated in 2015 and got engaged in early 2016, and then in 2017 bought a house together in August or so. October, she was hanging out with another guy, but denies any physical activity. If nothing else, it was an emotional relationship for a few weeks. In November, we found out she was pregnant and got married in the same month. Our daughter was born in July. Things were good for most of the year, and then I returned to school in the summer of 2018. She cheated on me with a mutual acquaintance, and I found the messages between them, after which she eventually admitted. She claimed to cut it off, but did occasionally still write to him. In November or December 2018, she began dating another guy and was with him without me knowing for about 8 months. This time, I found videos of them, and only then did she admit. In September 2019, she essentially cheated on him with 2 guys at a club, and again denied until I showed her the video, then claimed she was drunk. She eventually stopped talking to the BF, and I found a video of her in a shower with another guy. She said it was just dancing. Now in 2021, she has moved out and I filed for divorce. I'm finished with school in a few weeks, and now, after being apart for about 5 months, still talking and the divorce not finalized, she's begging for me back. She says she will be perfect and open about anything and will be the woman's deserve. She has had male friends, who I've heard through others have slept with her, but she denies this. She has recently sent pics to at least one guy, but claims it was accidental. Isn't married since 2016. 3-year-old daughter, wife's cheated with multiple guys and only admits when it's proven. Thou is begging for me back. At what point do I walk away? Oh, or is there a reason to try again? Can a person change that much? Her claim is that since the guys at the club, she hasn't done anything. Just wanted to know if anyone had experienced anything that crazy, and it had worked. I had searched and found a lot of stories about cheaters, but hadn't found one that bad. She has no job. I'm employed full-time and just finished school to make $4 more an hour. He says I'm not rich, barely middle class if that, but I can guarantee that with my type of job, I will always have a job. Yes, guaranteed. He says, and I am going to push on and go to med school. So broke for now, but within 10 years we'll be making quite a bit more. I swung by her house this morning just to see. She swears she will be perfect. Her husband was walking out of the garage. He had just pulled his car out and was leaving. At 6:30, I either have the best timing ever, or God is literally telling me it's okay to let go. A week later, the divorce is still ongoing. We have set up temporary orders, but she is wanting most of the children's time. Not really sure exactly how much I'll get, but right now I'm getting between 30-40 depending on the week. How did you guys tell your kids about the divorce? Does divorce always end badly for the kids? Are you a survivor of a divorce? Would you believe in marriage? I think divorce is sometimes needed, although it sucks for the family. Subscribe and let's keep moving forward in these relationship lessons.